It's always so good to be up in Prescott, to be up with the Republican women of Prescott, and I'll tell you, the entire moral of my talk today is going to be that Yavapai County has to be the firewall for Republicans in the state of Arizona. Yes. And Tyler's not joking about that turnout percentage. If we get it to 90%, there's no chance that any Democrat has a chance. You all really do, you really are the backbone. Rural Arizona and the direction of the state hasn't gone the way of Colorado because of what's happening in rural Arizona. Because Maricopa County, look, we live there, we like it, it's fine, but there's nothing like coming up here and spelling freedom and seeing some flags and Trump flags and carry sign on the way into town. So today I want to talk about data. Tyler gave us a lot of really good, encouraging talking points and things that we need to do, and I want to boil it down for Yavapai County. And I hope that there's going to be an ability to ask questions. So I want to make sure that I leave some time for questions if folks have questions. If not, no big deal. I'll make sure to cover enough. So I want to give you data of what Yavapai County's thinking, what Arizona's thinking, and then we'll go from there. So what do voters in Arizona care about today? We'll start in Arizona and we'll go into Yavapai County. Voters in Arizona right now, the top issue continues to be border immigration. All right, ignore the title, that's incorrect, I'm not sure what that means. Border immigration is the #1 issue. The second most important issue continues to be the economy, inflation, and jobs. The third most is abortion, and I want to talk about why it's even in the top 4, and the fourth is education. So I want to go back, because there's a lot of doomsdayers that Tyler and I hang out with down in Phoenix, or we try to maybe not hang out with, that say the sky's falling and we're going to lose everything. Literally, I get one call a day telling me about some new poll that came out that shows someone somewhere is losing by 50 points or 150 points. I'm like, that's not even statistically possible, but every day there's that call. And look, in 2018, we struggled in Arizona a bit. We lost some seats, okay? That year, there was a warning signs and red flags and sirens all up and down, and even then, we held on to the majorities. And this year is a heck of a lot of a better year than it was in 2018, and namely because of that top issue. Anytime border immigration is a top issue, who do you think Arizonans and Americans trust more to fix the border? Right? Republicans. They trust us to fix the border. Anytime education is a top issue, that tends to be better for Democrats. We don't have enough time to unpack why that's the case and why after $4+ billion in K-12 public education funding, voters still don't think we've given enough money. Again, topic for another day, but immigration being a top issue is a big deal. And I'll tell you, in Yavapai County, that's an even higher differential. The same with the economy. In any survey you see, here in Arizona or across the country, they trust Republicans, voters trust Republicans to do more about the economy. Also, it was amazing, the second I got into town, I realized that gas up here is $4 and gas down in Phoenix is $5. I'm not sure how that's possible, because I think we're closer to the pipeline than you all are, but I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. It's $1 difference. Gas is like $3.50 down in the south in Georgia. I'm like, I think we're closer to a pipeline, but again, what do I know? Republicans trust us, voters trust Republicans, I should say, to deal with the economy and inflation, but I do want to talk about abortion. That's an issue that I spend a lot of time on. Our firm spends a considerable amount of time on the life issue. We're proud to be pro-life. Hard stop. It's done. Right? I don't pull on the abortion issue to tell me what to do, believe or not believe. Abortion is not a political talking point. It is about saving women. It's about saving babies. It's about saving families. Hard stop. But we have to study what are the effects of what happened. So before Dobbs, the decision that overturned Roe versus Wade, which I'm sure all of you guys are aware of, abortion wasn't anywhere near the top issue. Okay, so you've heard people say, well, George, you're telling me Dobbs is going to cause Republicans to lose. Oh my gosh, it's animating all these voters, and all these voters are now opposed to Republicans. That's not true. Dobbs did one thing. Democrats were depressed because their president was no good. Okay, their president's still no good, but now they're more animated to hate us. That's the only difference. Sincerely, enthusiasm on the left was at about 62% before Dobbs. It's now up to 67%. Republican enthusiasm didn't drop. We have not seen the statistical significance of Republican women leaving the Republican Party, independents voting against us. All of that was the same. No difference. It affected one thing. It just motivated Democrats a bit more. We're already motivated. There's not a way that Republicans could be more motivated other than Yavapai County getting to 90% turnout. So let's work on that. That is the one thing. So I want to be clear. We shouldn't shy away from the life issue. We shouldn't run away from the life issue. We should embrace the life issue. We should do what Kerry did on Maria Bartiromo 2 weekends ago, which is call out Katie Hobbs for her extreme positions. Done, hard stop. The majority of Arizonans are with us on this issue. More than 70% of Arizonans do not believe that we should be taking children's lives up until the moment of birth, period. And that is what the facts say. We know that to be wrong. Voters know that to be wrong. Democrats don't. We need to hold them accountable to it. Now, in Yavapai County, voters in Yavapai County, and again, I think things are great in Yavapai County. Our surveys continue to show that y'all are kind of split about how life is up here. And it's because of, amazingly, and I'm sure everyone in here, I'm going to see some head nods, and I know this was a big deal, not to open up and go back to the Prescott mayor's race. Traffic, water, development. The people that say things are on the wrong track in Yavapai County, they're saying it because of those issues. So again, as someone who doesn't live here, when I come in here, I'm like, oh my God, I love this place. Why would anyone say it's the wrong track? It should be 150%. But voters here are a bit split. So that is something we have to keep in mind. But it's not about issues that affect Republicans on a statewide basis. It is a very hyper-local reason to feel like the county is not heading in the right direction. So I just wanted to note that. Let's go to the next slide on registration. We know that right now Republicans, and of course that's always been the case and will continue to be the case, we have the Republican registration advantage. But what's more amazing in the slide that shows up on the screen is Democrats have actually lost voter registration and Republicans have gained because of the work that you all have done. Okay? We are gaining Republican voters in Yavapai County. So, and again, another thing, and this is in the same theme of holding each other accountable. I hear a lot of talk when I come up here about how Californians are coming in and just ruining Yavapai County. Voter registration, and I'm sure we all know one Californian that's doing it, okay? So don't get me wrong on that. You can all find one Californian that's causing us issues. But the voter registration is not showing that. They're not coming in as Democrats. Either they're coming in and they're wising up and they're registering as Republicans, right? We are registering more voters. That's a good thing. Yavapai County is only getting more Republican. It's only getting more Republican because of y'all's hard work. I also want to talk about, there's a lot of, obviously, discussion of something that Representative Fincham, our next Secretary of State, has been doing a lot of work on and will continue to do a lot of work on, which is early voting and what's happening there. So if we're going to go to the next slide, in Yavapai County, there's still 80% of people are on AVOL, still, okay? But something interesting happened in the primary election, which again, I'm sure no one's going to be surprised by that. In the primary election, we had the highest rate ever in an election since we had PEVL, now AVOL, of people voting on election day, either in person or dropping off the early ballot. That light blue is people that had an early ballot but chose to vote on election day, all right? The highest instance. We only had 64% of the vote come in early ballot via mail. And so our firm tracks a dashboard, and I'll be honest with you, I was looking at some of the numbers that were coming back, and I was like, holy smokes, I'm kind of freaked out, because in the primary, and we made a bold prediction, and we got a lot of crap for it, that Kari Lake was gonna win the primary election, and I started seeing numbers come back, and I'm like, Yavapai County has to have more votes, right? I mean, compared to, let's go back to the other slide, sorry, we're not quite there yet. Yavapai County has to come back more votes, and it's because compared to historical precedent, you guys voted more day of than ever before, but I will say, until we fix our election laws, that big blue, light blue number means that we're waiting longer for results. So I will say, if we take our early ballot and we drop it off versus saying, remove me from the early ballot list, or go in person and spoil your ballot, or whatever you have to do, those are the percentages, the 20-some percent, those are the data and the votes that are not counted until the day after the election. So just keep that in mind until our laws are changed. We got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, but until then, and for this general election, unfortunately, those votes are counted last. So we got to keep that in mind. And you'll notice, obviously, in the chart on the right, Republicans voted much higher day of. Again, no surprise, but still, 52% of Republicans today, because it's, they're able to. 52% of Republicans still voted via mail. But even in Yavapai County, amazingly, 70% of Democrats only voted via mail, and 30% of them voted in person. In Maricopa County, it's like 99.99 to 0.1% for Democrats voting early and in person. But it's different in rural Arizona. Now I want to get to the next slide, which is the heart of it on turnout, which we've done a lot of talking about, and I want to talk about a couple of specific races. Yavapai County always has a higher turnout than the state of Arizona. Always, always, always. Hard stop. In 2020, when we had monster turnout, you had even more monster turnout. You almost got to 90%, 87.7%, okay? 2.3 off. That's why I think Tyler strategically said that number. It wasn't by accident. But look at the midterm election in 2018. That turnout in Yavapai County goes down to 78%. That 9% difference are all our voters. Okay? Those are our voters. Because again, keep in mind, I'm saying that all our voters, of course, there are Democrats that make up that difference. But because there's a lot more of us than there are of them, we know that the higher the turnout is, the more votes that we're going to net. Look, there's 2 counties that are critical for the state. With all due respect to Pinal County, and I love the folks down there, y'all are better organized, you have higher turnout. We need them to catch up, but they may be a decade behind. It's up to Yavapai County because there's only so many voters we can find in other states, other parts of the state. Mojave County's turnout's high, but they're smaller. There's other Republicans across the state. We need to maximize rural Arizona turnout to ensure our slate from Blake to Kerry on down to the corporation commissioners. In order for us to win, in order for Eli Crane to win, and we want to talk about the congressional race, we need turnout to be as close as humanly possible to 2020, or I'd love to set the bar at 90%. We need it to be above 80% at a minimum. That's like we've only gotten a C. That's like we're average if we're at 80%. We need to be higher than the last turnout, than the last midterm election. We're relying on you, sincerely. I cannot underscore it enough. This is not to nitpick on you or bag on you. We are relying on you as a state and as Republicans to ensure that turnout is high. So we'll get to some races. There's really only one major race of a statewide perspective. If you go to the next slide, that's in question, and it's not District 1. We know all 3 of our Republicans are going to win in District 1. Ken Bennett for Senate, Quan Nguyen for House, Selena Bliss for House. We know we're going to have a sweep. Okay? We know that. It's how big are those numbers? All right, how big are those numbers? Some years our Republicans win by 30, some years they win by 37. We want them to win to as close as 40 as possible. Why? The better that Republicans do down ballot, the better that Republicans do out ballot. Right? Your local electors are the ones that are closest to you. So your voters are going to be motivated. Of course, they're going to motivate to come out and vote for Blake or vote for Kerry or someone else, but they're going to be motivated to ensure that their local representatives stay conservative. So we need to ensure and maximize, and I know that they're doing work, and even though our Republicans up here, we know we're going to win in LD1, we still need to knock doors, we still need to put out golden tickets, we need to do all the work that I know. I see Lois shaking her head, she's like, yes, yes, more volunteers, more volunteers. All that work is going to need to be continued. There's no chance, as we've talked about, there's no chance to have turnout as high as 90% if we don't do all the hard work here, particularly in districts that are bright red. Look, Democrats do better than us in one thing. They have tended to. We are catching up and eclipsing them. They do work in our districts and they do work in their districts. They just do. They come into Gilbert, LD, the old LD 12, the new LD 14 and 15, and they'll have door knocking, and then they'll do it in the bright blue. We tend to leave those districts aside, the bright blue, and then sometimes, not in Yavapai County, but sometimes in some parts of the state, Republicans, we get complacent, like, well, our people are going to win, I'm not going to work. That can't be the case. The other side's not doing it, we can't do it either. Now, one race that I know is going to be a big deal on the next slide is Congressional District 2. The difference maker here, and I know I'm really boosting the ego here of Yavapai County, but I can't help it because it's true. The difference maker for District 2 is Yavapai County. There was a lot of fighting and battling for anyone who followed Redistricting Commission, and I'm sure there are people in this room that went and testified to keep Yavapai County whole, which has not been the case, right? In District 1, you used to have 30% of Maricopa County, which made no sense for Anthem, and it made no sense for you all. And then in District 2, this district didn't used to cover the most of Yavapai County. Now it covers the majority, if not all of the county, and that's the difference maker. That's what caused it to go from a swing district to go to a Republican plus district, right? We know President Trump won this by about 9 points. We can win this. This is ours to win, hard stop. There's no amount of quote-unquote moderation that Tom O'Halloran can do to pretend like he's going to get reelected and that he's a blue dog Democrat. He's not. He's voting with Joe Biden the vast majority of the time. But we need to ensure that Yavapai County carries the day, all right? Because this district also includes Flagstaff. But the reason why we can take on Flagstaff is because of you all, okay? Flagstaff bad. No offense to the Republicans there. Yavapai County good, all right? We need more Republicans from here, and we need less Democrats from Coconino. Congressional District 2 is a big deal. Again, cannot underscore enough. That is a district that if we don't win Congressional District 2, that means our prospects at a national perspective are tough, but we know we're going to win that. We know we're going to take back the U.S. House, by the way, and the Senate. I'm fairly confident we can. Tyler highlighted the states. It's a big deal. Look, there are some places where we're trending in the wrong direction. Yes, Georgia is one of them. Some of the headlines are freaking people out, all right, even from some Republicans. But there's some other places where Democrats are completely, you know, to not use another word, they're crap in the bed. They're not doing well. I mean, I'll tell you, Nevada. Let's look to Nevada. All right? In Nevada, that was not on a lot of people's radar. And the Hispanic voters in Nevada and the independent voters in Nevada are turning to the Republican Party. Why? Why? Because their parents that care. They came from a place, as my family came to a place, why did we come to the United States of America and uproot our whole lives and cause me to not see family and all that? Why? Because of the freedoms of the United States of America. My parents gave up everything to come to this country, and the same reason that people do it as well. And then they want to come to this country to then have the same thing that happened in their country happen here. I left because of religious freedom. I need religious freedom. So you're going to go against religious freedom, as the former Speaker of the House did, we're going to go work to take them out. That's the same thing. We cannot continue down this path. And so we know that those voters are going against the Democratic Party. So I believe that we can still take over the U.S. Senate. I believe in Arizona, we can have a statewide sweep of all of our statewide elected officials, all the ones that we lost. I'll tell you, we do a lot of polling work. Around this time in 2018, there were clear warning signs. We had some Democrats up. We had some Republicans way down. It was a hot mess. Everyone's about even right now. Right? It's a toss-up, and it's because I'll tell you, and there is this phenomenon in polling, Trump voters they're not responding in the way that you'd expect them to respond. Our firm has been proud, we have been more accurate, and again, we've gone toe-to-toe with other much more powerful firms, and we've gotten a lot of crap talked about us and some fun exposés in the Arizona Republic done on my father and I for this reason, but we were right. But even then, polling is just underrepresenting the Trump voter. Yes. People have not been able to figure it out, and you can tell the polling community is prepared to be wrong again, because there's all kinds of articles in Politico and all of these Democratic publications that are already talking about, well, they got it wrong last time, and it's really hard to do this, so I'm not sure we're going to get it right this time, right? They're already starting to that narrative, and so we know that bad polls come out for what reason? Politics is about perception. So if you're in the donor class, you're a volunteer, what are you going to feel if you keep hearing that your candidate's going to lose? So people in this room, maybe if you're a Dwight and Andrea kid, or maybe you get way more motivated, you're going to fight like that. But a lot of other people, unfortunately, are going to get anxious. They're going to get scared. They're going to retreat. They're going to be like, well, it's already lost anyways, and what's the point? They're doing it on purpose, guys. We have polling coming out in districts that say that Republicans are losing by 14 points, which has never happened. Too much to unpack now. It's never happened, and it's not going to happen, but they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it to suppress donors. They're doing it to suppress volunteers. They're doing it to get consultants distracted and candidates distracted, and we're not going to let them do that. So watch out for those polls that have no substance and no bearing, and from outside of the state firms that don't know what the heck they're talking about. And that, look, if they were wrong in the primary, odds are they're going to be wrong in the general. And if they were wrong last cycle, odds are they're going to be wrong this cycle again. Watch out for that. So we talked about statewide, now our legislature. I believe that right now we're 16-14 in the state Senate and 31-29 in the state House, and anyone that I'm sure you've talked to that knows anything about what's happening down there, it's been utter misery for anything that we care about, all right? Anything of substance that needs to get passed, even though we passed some very powerful things like empowerment scholarship accounts so that every child can have educational opportunity and freedom, which is a huge victory, right? So even though we got that, there was a lot of other things that were killed. I'll tell you though, most of the good bills that were killed, what do you think happened to those Republicans that killed those bills? Gone. Not a single one is returning. Right? Not a single one is returning. And of the Republicans that lost, there's 4 in particular, all of the votes that they lost are because of cultural votes. They're because of things like religious freedom. They're because of things like immigration. They're because of things like rolling your leadership. They're because of things like election reform. They're because of things like the life issue. They're because of things like academic transparency. Cultural issues are motivating our voters. There's such a massive chasm between where the Democrats are and where Republicans are on these issues. I mean, it's never been wider. When people say our country's never been farther apart, and then the response is, well, the Civil War, yes, of course the Civil War, we were exceptionally far apart for obvious reasons. What people mean by that is on every issue, rank and file, up and down, the parties have never been farther apart. We have clear choices here. We have a choice to go down this very dark path, and we have this choice to go down the path of truth, right? We know there's only one eternal truth. That's the hard stop bottom line. And anyone that's prioritizing, with all due respect, to echo Tyler's comments, anyone that's prioritizing explicitly kindness, as some Republicans apparently did in the Goldwater Park, where a bunch of quote-unquote Republicans endorsed Katie Hobbs, look at all of those quote-unquote Republicans' track records. They endorse every Democrat, okay? If you're not going to be a member of the club, you shouldn't be in the club anymore. Shouldn't be in the club anymore. Thank you guys so much. I think I'm getting my cue. You guys are awesome. 90%, 90%, 90%. Thank you.